Hi, scholars. So we're going to be working on adding and subtracting fractions today. This video is just to give you a little bit of a refresher. This is all stuff that we've done. Hopefully we know what we're doing. Hopefully we feel comfortable doing it. If not, that's what this video is for, so you can get a little bit of a refresher. And if that still doesn't help, feel free to text me or call me and we can get on FaceTime or something like that and go through another problem. So the first problem that I'm going to go through on everyone is going to be the first problem on the worksheet that you have. So we're going to do adding fractions first. Why don't you go grab your paper, have it in front of you. Pause the video right now if you need to. Grab your paper, have it in front of you so you can work on it along with me. Go ahead. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have 1/10 plus 2/5. Now, it's going to look a little funny because it's going to be flipped around by the computer, so just bear with me. 1/10 plus 2/5. Now, first thing we need to do when we're adding fractions or subtracting, we need to find a common denominator. Now, the way that we're going to find a common denominator is we're going to think, what number can both of these go into? Now, we also have to think, what is the smallest number that both of these can go into? Finding the smallest number is going to make our life a lot easier when we come to the answer and we have to simplify, if we have to simplify. So here, I'm going to have 1/10 plus 2/5. I can't add it together. They don't have a common denominator. What would be a common denominator between 1/10 and 2/5? Think on it for a second. Okay, good. The common denominator is going to be 10. So I want to get both of these numbers to something over 10 and something over 10. My first one here, 1/10. What would I need to do to get that to something over 10? Nothing. We're good, right? It's already over 10. So I'm going to have 1/10. 2/5. What would I need to do to get that to something over 10? I have to get this 5 and turn it into a 10. How would I do that? Good. I'm going to multiply by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. Perfect. Now, I ran out of room, so I'm going to rewrite this underneath like that. If you have room longwise on your paper, just keep going. You don't have to rewrite it. So 1/10 plus 4/10. Now, I'm going to add my numerators, 1 and 4. That's going to give me 5. Now, when I'm adding or subtracting fractions, do I add or subtract the denominators? No. So I'm just going to have 10 and 10. Bring it over. So I have 5 over 10. Now, what you're going to do here is you're going to simplify this fraction. You're going to think, okay, how many times can 5 go into 10? How many times can my numerator go into my denominator? Now, we're not dividing. We're just thinking how many times can 5 go into 10? 5 can go into 10. 5 can go into 5 one time. 5 can go into 10 2 times to give us our simplified version, which is 1/2. Okay? So if you got to 5/10, that's great. The perfect answer here is 1/2, 1/2. The simplifying, I know that the simplifying is a little bit harder and a little bit newer for us, but hopefully we feel comfortable doing that. Now, I'm going to give us one more addition problem. I'm going to go through it a little bit faster, so stay with me. We're going to have 3/4 plus 1/3. Okay, just like before, I need to find a common denominator. Again, it's 3/4 plus 1/3. I need to find a common denominator. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the denominators. I'm going to say, okay, what is a number that both 4 and 3 can go into? Think on it for a second. A number that both 4 and 3 can go into is 12. So I'm going to put a 12 over here, a 12 over here, and I'm going to think, okay, what am I going to need to do to get this 3/4 to something over 12? I'm going to multiply by 3/3. This right here is an equivalent fraction to 1, so we're not going to change the value of 3/4. We're just going to change the denominator so that we can add them together. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. Hopefully we all see that. 1/3. What am I going to need to do to get 1/3 to something over 12? I'm going to multiply it by 4 over 4. 4 over 4 is an equivalent fraction to 1. So again, we're not changing the value of 1/3. We're just making it so that the denominator is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. So what I have here, again, it might look a little funny, is 9 over 12 and 4 over 12. I'm going to rewrite it down below. Now I'm going to add them together. 9 plus 4 is going to be 13 over 12. 13 over 12. Now I need to simplify that fraction. So what are we going to do this time? This time we are going to divide because we have more in our numerator than we do in our denominator. So we're going to divide 12 into 13. 12 into 13. 12 goes into 13 one full time. So it's going to give us 1. I would have 12. I would subtract. I would have 1 left over. Hopefully we can all see that. That 1 is going to be our remainder. 1. We put our remainder over our denominator. 1 and 1/12. Sorry, it's kind of hard to write like this. Might be a little sloppy. 1 and 1/12. 13 over 12 equals 1 and 1/12. Okay, great. Now, why don't you go ahead and pause the video. Try to finish the addition worksheet that you're working on. Hopefully it won't take too long. And then when you start it up again, we're going to move on to subtraction. So make sure that you have your subtraction worksheet in front of you and you're looking at the first one working along with me. Okay? Great. So the first problem on our subtraction worksheet is 6 over 10 minus 1/2. So again, when we're subtracting, we have to find that common denominator. So I'm going to look at 6 over 10, and I'm going to say, okay, what number does both 6 over 10 and 1 over 2? What number do both of these have in common in the denominator? Now, I look at 10, I look at 2. The number that they both have in common is going to be 10. So I'm going to put my 10s over here, and I'm going to think, what do I have to do to get 6 over 10 to something over 10? Obviously, that's already good, so I can just write 6 over 10. 1/2, we do have to do something to get it to something over 10. We are going to multiply that by an equivalent fraction. Think in your head really quick. What would that equivalent fraction be? What do we have to multiply 2 by to get it to 10? We're going to multiply 5 over 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. To give us 5 over 10. 6 over 10 minus 5 over 10. I'm going to rewrite it down here below. Again, if you have room longwise on your paper, don't worry about writing it anywhere else. Just keep going. 6 minus 5 is 1. I'm going to subtract my numerator like I just did. Now, do we do anything with the denominator? Does it change when we're adding or subtracting? No. So my final answer is 1 over 10. Now you're going to look at this and you're going to think, can I simplify this any further? Hopefully we know that 1 over 10 is in the simplest form that it can be. And that's all you're going to do.